Marcus had learned to move through buildings the way some people moved through prayers, quietly, without needing to be seen. The school where he worked now looked modern from the outside, all glass and fresh paint. But Marcus knew what it really was, an unfinished promise laid down carefully in years. The district had rebuilt after a storm of politics and budgets. The students had moved on, and the donors had put their names on the bricks. Marcus didn't put his name anywhere. He arrived before the custodial shift started, when the hallways still held the cool breath of night. He swept the same stretches of tile until the light caught the floor, and it stopped looking like something that happened to people rather than something people used to live in. He cleaned science room sinks that smelled faintly of bleach and learning. He replaced broken chair legs and taped down fraying corners of carpet with the steady patience of a man who didn't waste motion. Most staff and parents knew him as the janitor. They said it with a kind of casual affection, like it was a neutral label, the way you said mail carrier or bus driver. Marcus had heard the tone behind the words. He was grateful for the work, grateful for the safety of routine, and grateful, quietly, for not having to explain himself to strangers. He also knew what strangers didn't know. He didn't like thinking about it in the morning, so he didn't. He liked to start his day with small facts, the thermometer at the front office that sometimes stuck, the stained corner of the auditorium seats that always returned if you didn't get it right the first time, the vending machine in the teacher's lounge that made a particular rattle right before it jammed. On Fridays, he would stop at the foyer bulletin board and check the flyer for the upcoming fundraiser, a school improvement drive, something about supporting student success, something that came with photos of smiling kids and bold lettering. Marcus had watched those posters go up in other places too, posters that looked like hope from far away and like paperwork from close range. When the day for the fundraiser finally arrived, the building filled with warmth in the way buildings did when people came looking for memories. Strings of lights went up like someone trying to make time behave. Tables appeared with trays of food that smelled better than they looked. Parents in pressed clothes walked slower than they meant to, trying to look casual. The gym filled with voices and soft laughter that turned sharp for moments, then smoothed out again. Donna arrived early, as she always did, because if Donna didn't arrive early, then nothing else would move the way it needed to. She was the kind of volunteer coordinator who had taught herself not to depend on everyone's kindness. She carried a clipboard in one hand and a set of spare badges in the other. People trusted her because she didn't perform trust, she just did the work. Donna saw Marcus across the gym and smiled like she recognized him, even though she did. Donna had spoken to him a dozen times in the last year, small talk about the weather, about how the floors got dirtier after events, about the way students dropped water bottles near the stage. Marcus returned her smile with a nod. He kept his interactions brief. Briefness kept the questions away. But that day, as the event kicked off, Donna's smile didn't reach her eyes. A man in a gray jacket, someone Donna hadn't seen before, stepped into the gym while volunteers were still setting up. His badge clipped to his shirt looked almost right, but the lanyard hung wrong, and the printed name on it was half hidden. The man walked with the speed of someone who expected to be followed. Donna approached him carefully. "Hi," she said, voice polite, not confrontational. "Do you have a volunteer check-in?" The man's answer came too quickly, as if he had practiced it. "I'm with the program," he said. "I'm going to—" Donna asked for the name on the badge. The man blinked, then glanced at the crowd like he needed their help to remember his own story. Marcus saw it all without announcing that he saw. He had seen this kind of mismatch before, bad timing wearing a disguise. People did strange things when they thought rules were flexible. Donna didn't yell. Donna never yelled. She stepped closer, keeping her hands visible the way you did when you were trying to avoid turning a situation into a fight. "Sir," she said, "I need to verify who you are." The man's face tightened. "My stuff is in the car," he said. Donna tried again. "I can walk with you or we can check it here. We just need the right entry." The man's gaze flicked toward Marcus as if he believed Marcus would be confused or too quiet to challenge him. Marcus stayed where he was, holding a cleaning cart near the edge of the gym. His hands weren't empty, but he didn't wave them or point. His restraint was a kind of answer. Evelyn noticed the tension next. Evelyn was the athletic director's assistant and also the coach who handled the after-school programs. She moved through the crowd like she belonged to every corner at once. Evelyn had a talent for noticing the gap between what people said and what they actually meant. She approached Donna, then looked at the gray jacket man with a practiced focus. "Badge isn't matching the list," Evelyn said. "Who are you with?" The man's voice rose just a fraction. I'm here for donations," he said. "I'm supposed to bring something." Donna's voice stayed steady. "We don't have a check-in record for you. Let's do this the right way." The man stepped back. The crowd shifted, the way crowds did when they sensed an explanation was about to happen. Someone laughed too loudly, then stopped. A few parents turned their phones toward the scene, already deciding they'd witnessed something worth sharing. Marcus watched the man's hands. They hovered near his pockets with the nervousness of someone who didn't know what he might need to reach for. Marcus didn't make a move. He waited for the moment when the truth would separate itself from the performance. That moment came quicker than anyone expected. A student, small, maybe 14, walked through the edge of the gym carrying a stack of paper programs. She slowed when she saw the tense cluster. Her eyes widened. "Mom, what's happening?" The gray jacket man answered like he was performing for her. "It's fine," he said. Donna and Evelyn took a step to block the student's path without making it obvious they were blocking her. They were protecting her without making her feel like a target. Then the man's expression changed. He swallowed and his gaze slipped past the volunteers, searching for something. Marcus followed the direction of that search and understood, immediately, without dramatics, that the man was trying to locate a set of items that he believed were still accessible. It wasn't random. It wasn't an accident. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't call out like a hero. He simply walked forward, slow enough to keep people from turning it into a spectacle and quick enough to keep it from turning dangerous. Donna noticed him and started to speak, but Marcus held up a hand, not to silence Donna, but to ask for a moment. Donna paused. Evelyn paused too. People do pause when they recognize the tone of someone who has done something difficult before. Marcus looked at the man's badge and then the man's eyes. His voice, when he finally spoke, was calm and plain. "Your badge number doesn't exist in our system," he said. The gray jacket man's face stiffened. "Who are you?" he demanded. Marcus answered like he was stating a fact about a door latch. "I'm staff." "That's not an answer," the man snapped. Donna's eyebrows lifted. "It is," she said quietly. "He works here." Marcus kept his attention on the man, not because he wanted to dominate, but because he was careful with attention. Attention could escalate a situation. Attention could also reveal a lie. The man leaned forward slightly. "You don't know anything," he said. "You're just what? Just the janitor, just the help, just someone people walked past." Marcus let the insult hang there without taking the bait. He didn't flinch. He didn't show anger. He let the man finish his thought so that everyone could hear the assumption plainly. The man's voice lowered. "Just the janitor." The gym noise went down by a fraction. A few people shifted their weight as if they realized they had been laughing at the wrong moment. Phones hovered. Someone stopped recording for a second, then resumed. Donna stepped closer, her face hardening, but her hands remained open. "That's enough," she said. Marcus didn't tell Donna to stop. He didn't tell Evelyn to handle it. He didn't ask for security in a way that would make the crowd feel like they'd been endangered. Instead, Marcus spoke again. This time it wasn't an accusation. It was a verification. "I was on the rebuilding contract here long before this school had walls like these," Marcus said. "The name on your badge doesn't match the vendor list from the year you claim. The font is off. Even the laminate is off." The gray jacket man looked confused, as if he hadn't expected Marcus to know anything beyond cleaning supplies. "That doesn't mean anything," he said. Marcus nodded once, almost politely. It means you aren't who you're trying to be. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. She'd been coaching games and watching for tells in body language for years. She recognized the shift in Marcus's posture. He wasn't performing authority. He was simply accurate. Donna held up her clipboard. "We'll call security and verify," she said. The gray jacket man's mouth tightened. He looked around, trying to find an exit that wouldn't look like an exit. The crowd made room without meaning to, a collective, unconscious movement, the way people make space when they realize they might have been wrong about who was in control. Security arrived within minutes. The gray jacket man tried to argue, but his story unraveled in simple ways. Dates that didn't align, names that didn't exist, paperwork that belonged to someone else. He was let out quietly, without drama, as if the building itself wanted to close the moment and return to its event. But the reveal wasn't finished. While volunteers redirected tables and restored the music volume, Donna stayed where she was. She stared at Marcus like she needed to understand how he knew what he knew. Evelyn stood beside her, arms crossed, her expression thoughtful and unsettled. Donna cleared her throat. "Marcus," she said, careful with the name, "how did you know the vendor list details?" Marcus looked at her and his face didn't change much. People expected tension. Marcus offered explanation without flourish. "I've done it before," he said. Donna's eyes narrowed, not in suspicion but in focus. "Before where?" Marcus glanced toward the gym wall where the school's history photos were displayed. Students in older uniforms, brickwork crews, the international group that had helped organize the early years. The images were blurry in places, but the pride in them was still sharp. Donna's voice softened. "You mentioned rebuilding abroad," she said. "Which contract?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He seemed to weigh whether his restraint had gone far enough. He had learned that some truths were easier to carry quietly, but a lie in a room could force a truth to step forward. Evelyn took a small breath. "Are you—" she started, then stopped herself as if she didn't want to guess. Marcus finished it for her without theatrics. "I'm a veteran," he said. The gym around them kept moving, but it felt like the moment tightened. People had heard the word veteran before. Most of them meant medals and speeches. They meant a certain type of story. Marcus didn't offer that kind of story. He offered detail. Donna asked gently, "What branch?" Marcus's answer came slow, not because he was uncertain, but because he was protecting the space. "Army," he said. "Engineer unit." A parent nearby, someone who'd overheard the conversation, let out a quick sound, half surprise and half disappointment, as if they'd wanted Marcus to be more dramatic. The parent didn't say it, but their face did. Marcus ignored it. He'd learned that other people's impatience couldn't decide the value of his life. Donna turned her clipboard slightly, looking for somewhere to anchor this conversation that felt bigger than fundraising. "Marcus," she said, "what did you do?" Marcus stared at the floor for a beat, then looked back up. His voice stayed level. "We rebuilt schools," he said. "We cleared access routes. We set up safe water points. We repaired what the war took apart." Evelyn's eyes glistened, not from pity, but from recognition that the man they'd dismissed as background had carried a whole history. Donna's mouth parted slightly. "Marcus," she said again, like she was trying the name against the new facts. "Why are you here as a janitor?" That question wasn't cruel, but it was the kind of question people asked when their world had no room for someone's complexity. Marcus felt it like a draft. He didn't defend himself. He didn't blame anyone. He didn't tell her he had been homeless for a time, or that the kind of help that came with paperwork had moved slowly when he needed it fast. He didn't unload his pain like an offering. Instead, he said, "Because it's steady," he replied. "Because I can work with my hands again. Because the school taught me something before I left, and I wanted to help it stay open." Donna nodded, and her eyes tightened with the first hint of tears. She looked at the photos on the wall. How many times donors got credit for what others carried? Evelyn swallowed. "People don't know you," she said. "They do today," Marcus replied. He wasn't trying to sound tough. He was simply stating what was already happening. By the time security had finished escorting the gray jacket man out, the gym had resumed, but it hadn't resumed in the same way. The crowd had absorbed something they couldn't unsee. A rumor moved faster than any announcement, that the janitor had recognized a fraud, that he had known contract details, that he spoke like a man who had lived in a world most people only saw on news. Then Donna saw what someone else had missed. A staff member brought Donna a folder that belonged to the fundraising committee, an old document box they'd been given during the school's rebuild years. Donna had planned to use it for a display table. In it, there were copies of contractor lists and archived correspondence. Donna flipped through papers with the careful attention of someone who wanted proof, not stories. Her fingers stopped at a line that looked like a name someone would have missed if they weren't searching for it. Donna inhaled. She looked up from the folder. "Marcus," she said, and her voice had changed. She sounded smaller, not because she feared him, but because the truth felt too solid to argue with. Marcus approached at her pace. Evelyn moved closer too, as if she could feel the gravity gathering. Donna turned the folder toward them. There was a name, Marcus's full legal name, typed in black ink on letterhead used for overseas reconstruction. Under it, there was a role: Field Supervision for Protected Learning Facilities and Access Routes. But that wasn't what silenced everyone. On the next page, there was a specific incident report from years ago, one of the plain documents that didn't sound heroic until you understood what it meant. It described a day when a supply route had been threatened, and when a team had needed someone to confirm safety without causing a panic that could get people hurt. The report listed the person who made the confirmation call. It listed Marcus, not as a soldier, not as a hero, as a decision-maker whose restraint prevented chaos. The gym crowd drifted nearer, drawn by the tone. Phones lifted again, but this time not to mock. This time, people held their devices like they didn't know what to do with evidence. Donna read the line out loud without embellishment, just enough so everyone could hear. "It's dated," she said, voice steady despite her tears. "It lists Marcus, field verification for safe access during active threat conditions." Marcus didn't react like a man receiving a prize. He looked at Donna with a restrained kind of gratitude, the kind that said, "Thank you for not turning it into spectacle." Someone in the crowd, an adult who'd earlier treated Marcus as background, made a sound like swallowing wrong. Their face flashed with the embarrassment of realizing their certainty had been ignorance. Evelyn stepped forward and placed her hand over her chest. She didn't perform emotion, she simply let it be seen. Donna's eyes shone. "You rebuilt schools," she said, and the words landed hard. "You—" Marcus nodded slightly, accepting the accuracy. "We rebuilt," he corrected gently. "A lot of people did." That mattered. It mattered because it prevented the room from turning Marcus into a single-man myth. He didn't let them use him to comfort themselves. Instead, he gave them something harder: the truth that survival and repair were teamwork. Then the silencing moment arrived, earned and quiet. It didn't require music to drop. It didn't require anyone to shout, "This man!" A parent, older, voice trembling at the edge of control, asked the question everyone else had been thinking since the rumor started. "Marcus, are you the one in the district's award archive?" Donna's grip tightened on the folder. Evelyn's eyes flicked to Marcus. Marcus answered in a way that made the room understand he had never needed the title, only the work. "Yes," he said. He looked around slowly, not to demand attention, to accept it without feeding it. Then he added one sentence, calm enough that it sounded like he was talking to himself, but clear enough that everyone heard it. "I was told I'd done enough. I didn't feel like I was done." No one knew what to do with that. They didn't know whether to clap or apologize or look away. So they did the only thing that didn't cheapen it. They made space. Some people lowered their phones without turning it into a performance. Someone stepped backward so Marcus wouldn't have to pass through a wall of attention. Donna shifted the folder back into her hands with care, as if the paper itself could bruise. A student who'd earlier asked her mom what was happening stepped forward and looked at Marcus with a different kind of attention, an attention that wasn't awe, but understanding. "Were you there when they built the school before this one?" she asked. Marcus crouched slightly so he was level with the student's eyes. He didn't pretend he didn't want to be understood, he simply kept it honest. "I helped," he said. The student nodded. "Thank you," she said, and her voice didn't crack from emotion alone. It cracked from recognition that gratitude didn't need permission. Marcus stood again. He didn't smile broadly. He didn't soften into a hero image. His face carried years, but his eyes held a steadiness that made it clear he had chosen restraint as a form of respect. Donna wiped her eyes with the edge of her sleeve and let her tears fall without shame. "We've been calling you the janitor," she admitted quietly. "We thought we knew what that meant." Marcus shook his head once. "You meant well," he said, "but words don't cover a whole life." Evelyn nodded and let out a breath like she'd been holding it for years. "I'm sorry," she said, looking at the crowd and then at Marcus. "Not just for today, for every time we assumed." Some people opened their mouths, then closed them, not knowing how to apologize properly. The room stayed silent, but not in anger. In that silence, you could hear the building settling and the distant hum of music that had been turned back on too softly. Marcus didn't ask for forgiveness. He didn't ask for applause. He turned away from the center of attention and returned to the simple work he'd been doing all morning, smoothing a stray roll of tape on the floor, adjusting a chair that had been knocked loose, checking a trash bin that needed emptying. But the crowd followed him with a new kind of attention. People moved around him carefully, as if they'd finally learned that just staff could include history heavy enough to change a room. Donna watched him for a moment, then stepped beside him. "Do you want me to add your full name to the archive display?" she asked. Marcus hesitated, then shook his head slightly. "Not for me," he said. "For them. For the students, so they know the help they see is also sacrifice." He tapped the folder gently once, as if it was important but fragile. Donna nodded and held the truth like it deserved to be handled with clean hands. The fundraiser resumed. People laughed again, but it wasn't the same laughter. It had edges of humility. When a teacher asked Marcus to help with setup, Marcus said yes without asking to be thanked. And when the night ended, the school looked like itself again. Lights on, doors closing, kids tired and grown quiet by the day's events. But the room didn't forget. Later, when Marcus locked up and checked the windows, he paused briefly at the hallway wall where the school's rebuild photos hung. He looked at the faces frozen in time and thought about the kind of restraint that kept people safe. Speaking only when speaking mattered, acting only when action was necessary, and never confusing being unseen with being unimportant. He understood that the truth had finally reached the people who needed it. Not as a performance, as a fact. And in that fact, Marcus's dignity landed where it always belonged. Quiet, solid, and impossible to dismiss again.